Hello, I'm Daniel Robayo, and I'm a deputy to General Convention that begins as of this time in about a week. And I serve on committee number 8 of the House of Deputies, which is Social Justice and United States Policy. We have quite a few resolutions in front of us. There are 28 by my count as I look at them. And we have a question, one question people ask since we have a short convention has to do with, are we going to have all of these on the consent calendar? What comes off the consent calendar to actually be discussed? I don't know, is the answer. There are quite a few. Every one of them, I believe, has huge implications and significance for our national life as a community, as a country, and therefore it's hard to say. There are a number of groupings about them because there are several resolutions related to a particular topic. One that I want to mention right now has to do with healthcare. There are resolutions addressing healthcare outcomes for Native peoples, the inequities in access and outcomes, inequities in access and outcome as well for minorities, for people of color, and having to do with also resolutions with providing support for healthcare workers, both in the professional, inside the hospital system sort of thing, as well as the families and the other caregivers. There are resolutions concerning the care, medical care and access and treatment for gender identity. And that is obviously of great import right now in the national conversation. There is a resolution addressing access to reproductive care. I believe it's called Addressing the Erosion of Reproductive Rights and Autonomy. This was submitted, I'm sure, before we heard this latest decision from the Supreme Court that remits legislation concerning abortion access and rights to the states. So there will probably be quite a bit of conversation about that. Ongoing harm of crisis pregnancy centers, addressing that's also involved in this, as well as any kind of restrictions on access to people, for people to get health care at this time. Quite a bit of different policies are being addressed in other areas as well. There are several resolutions dealing with the issue of gun violence in our communities, having to do with regulating ghost guns and 3D print guns, or what kind of gun violence prevention advocacy may be needed, dealing with investment in community to do prevention of gun violence. There are a number of things, number of resolutions related to that. There are some resolutions dealing with incarceration. What kind of there are a number of issues related to mass incarceration that the convention is being asked to discuss or to address. And also have something having to do with incarceration related to immigration. And that one is a little close to the heart to me, and it has to do with what to do about immigrants whose cases are pending review, alternatives to detention. One, and secondly, what kind of alternatives are more life enhancing? So there's a question about that. Related to race, there are a number of resolutions involved in that. One that comes to mind has to do with the Emmett Till Anti-Lynching Act that was recently signed, for example. There are a number of well, I should have mentioned when I was talking about healthcare, there are some also dealing with child welfare and the care and foster system. There's also resolutions dealing with addressing the past concerns related to forced adoptions, when women were forced to give up their children into adoption. There are also resolutions dealing with the electoral process here in the United States, about modernizing the system, about addressing shortcomings that have been now perceived in the Electoral Act, in the Electoral Count Act, which is more than 130 years old. voter suppression. Those are also, there are resolutions about that. So there are a number on that front. The committee has been hard at work. We take it very seriously, obviously, and pray hard and talk long